Howdy, and welcome to Broken Tool Garage. What am I doing this week? Well, if you've read the title of the video before you clicked on it, or you got it before it auto-played, or watched the my thumbnail intro as it came in, you know that I'm going over tech topic radiators. So this is kind of a part 2 to my tech topic I went over on the coolant system and mainly water pump, and I just kind of quickly got rid of the system for the radiator, and now it's time for me to finish that up and go over how radiators work. So this is going to be going over kind of a touch-up to where what happens between the thermostat, right, to the radiator, how it goes through the radiator, basic functions of it, why they're shaped and look the way they do and have the features the way they do, and hopefully we'll have a little fun with this tech topic. Alright, let's jump right into it. Alright, so I'm using the old radiator out of gym as my example here. I'm going to start with kind of where I left off on the circuit, which is with the thermostat. Now a thermostat, what it does, it's a valve that's normally closed. When it heats up, it opens. The way it does that is there's a spring right here, and whenever it heats up, it actually, I gotta do that number, it opens up because the spring gets hot and it starts pulling it, right? And it'll pull it open. So this controls when the water goes into the radiator, and what you want to do is you could just do constant flow all the time, but then your flow is just going straight through the radiator and it doesn't have enough time to sit in the radiator and get cool. So that's why you have this little gate right in here. So this is a 180 degree thermostat, so that information can be found here. That's Fahrenheit, or 82 degrees Celsius for you millimetric types. What that means is at 180 degrees, this is fully open, so it'll be all the way up there, fully open as much as it can go to allow the flow to go in. Alright, so this thermostat sits in a housing which attaches to the engine block, and then it has a tube that'll connect to the upper radiator hose, which is the inlet hose. So when this opens, it allows the hot water to go into the radiator and fill that up. At the same time, since this valve's open, it allows the cold water in the radiator to come out and be sucked up into the pump and go into the engine, and it'll cycle that out. Wherever that cold water goes all the way through the engine and comes back up to the thermostat, it knows, hey, I'm no longer 180 degrees, and it starts closing. Okay, upper radiator hose, that's all it is. It just goes into the radiator. Get that out of the way. So the water enters into the radiator, the thermostat closes, so now we have a closed system of just the radiator. There's no more flow going through the radiator. So that's kind of good and bad. It would be nice if you could get flow going through the radiator at that time, because it would help with your heat transfer. Because what you'll get if you're not flowing that water, it's all hot, and only get hot and cold spots throughout here. So the way this cools off is you have a coolant fan that is pulling air through the radiator and across all these fins right here. So that takes the heat out of the water and puts it into the air, and that makes this a water-to-air heat exchanger, right? Or commonly known as a car radiator. So if we look at the construction of this radiator, we know that we have a couple tanks on the end that'll hold some extra fluid, and what is happening, I'll get you a little closer on this so we can look at this. Okay, so if you look, these little thin areas right here that run horizontal, that's what the water goes into, right? So it'll fill up those little channels all the way across, and those come into the tank right here. So they're going to be open on the ends right here on both sides, and whenever that's how it flows whenever the valve or thermostat is open. So the little wavy ones in between here, that's what the air comes through. Now, why not just leave it open? You know, why not do it a different method. And the reason is, all this right here is, that adds a lot of surface area. So if you took this, just one of the little innards of here, if you took that out and stretched it out and figured out the surface area, it adds a whole lot more than if you just took those out and you had just the veins or flow channels right in here. Sure, there's a technical name for those. So that's why that's done, is the more surface area you have more area for that air to come across, so you can get more heat transfer out of the radiator. So usually heat transfer is measured in BTUs, that's British thermal units per hour, kind of like your air conditioning heating system and stuff like that, right? So that's what that construction is for. And you got your tank, so you have your water, it can flow in and come across in the flow segment of the operation. And then, like I said, you have the little veins in there, so that is your little flow channels. Fan, aka whirling blade of death. So this right here, I don't know where we're at. I'll reset the location there. So this right here is a flex fan. It's an aftermarket flex fan that you can get from like Jegs or Summit Racing or whatever. So what happens is, if you look at the blades, these blades, as it spins faster, they'll flatten out. And when they flatten out, it'll start making less drag because it's doing less work. It's moving less air because it's flat and it's no longer a fan, it's just spinning. These buggers have a habit, see all these are all rusted. That's why I took it off the ram charger, because these right here, these blades can fly off, and yeah, bad things happen. But anyways, that's how a basic flex fan works. You also have clutch fans. Alrighty, here is a clutch fan. So it's called a clutch fan because it has a clutch in here. The faster you turn it, the slower the fan goes, right? Because there's slippage in there. I can actually turn that right there. So if you're putting input from the engine by your belt system, which is usually hooked up to your water pump pulley, whenever that goes in there and starts turning it, there's some resistance in there, so that it slips. So the faster it goes, the slower it turns, so you're not getting as much of a horsepower loss. So diving into fans there for a little bit, the reason you want your fan to go a little bit slower is because if your engine RPMs are high, then you should be going down the road and you have air coming in through your grill and across the radiator, so you don't need as much fan. There's a lot of theories and dynos on how much horsepower a flex fan and a clutch fan pull versus just using an electric fan. So what I'm going to tell you is that electric fan is the most efficient way you can go about it. Just depends on where you're at. My general rule of thumb, if you're not going to be operating your vehicle above 3,000 RPMs, you'll probably never notice pulling that fan right there, because it's whenever those start getting above 3,000 RPMs where you really start seeing a huge loss in there, something that's actually measurable and you could feel that. Alright, that's my personal opinion on it. So you can go watch, I think Engine Masters did a whole Booyah thing on fans and all that. You can go watch that. And probably a bunch of other people did too, right? Okay, so I think that covers everything on coolant systems. So this is part 2 of the coolant system. Went over the thermostat operation, radiator operation, and fan operation. And I think that will tidy this one up. And I think, oh, hey, I got a little bit of bonus for you. I think I'm going to go over, since this one's pretty quick, I'm just going to tie in another real quick one about transmission lines that I videoed. Before I get into that, I want to show you this really, really, really awesome, get around on this side so I can see what I'm doing. Alright, I think we can see a little better right there. Good looking hose, and burp. See if we can catch that. See that crack? That's why you inspect your stuff. That'll tidy that one up. I got a little segment right here on transmission lines, tech topic that's real short that I'll do right after that, and that's it. I appreciate you watching. If you like what you see, make sure to hit that like, subscribe. Don't be afraid to comment if you think this is pretty cool, or share if you found this stuff useful. I'll see you next time on Broken Tool Garage. Time for a tech tip. when you're doing the transmission lines and you unhook them, right, they're going to drain. And you can drain a significant amount of fluid out of your transmission if you don't cap those off. So what I did was put my bolt in there, right? And then you see the clamp is still on there, and then clamp the bolt on. And what that does, it caps it off, and you don't lose your hose clamps. Then I have a bucket there because sometimes you still get a little bit of dripping off there. But it's not like it's going to be completely open and, you know, dirt daubers and bugs and stuff in there. And right there, no leaks. All right, Tender Warrior. Got my reading done, and chapter 14 is complete. 15 and 16, that's all that's left. All right, I will warn you on chapter 14. Now, if you've been reading along or and going in and looking at the questions at the end, Stu Weber can be a little abstract here, and well, I struggled with these. Very, very abstract. So as you see, you know, I do more concrete stuff. So maybe y'all fare a little better. Now there's two questions. The man faces himself, the first two on here. Then he starts the numbers over again with the man meets with his friends. The first two questions are long-term. One is read a book and one's to do a study. So I don't have those answered because I can't really do that in 1 week, right? So those are going to be written down and things that I can go and work on a little bit later. Alright, there again, reading Tender Warrior and just doing a chapter a week as a challenge. And if you're just watching that, that's what I'm doing. That's what this little end section right here is about. Alright, well, I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.